Welcome everyone, this is Than from Tidal Gardens, and today we're going to cover mushrooms from the genus Ricordea. Now there's two types of Ricordea, a Caribbean species called Ricordea florida and a Pacific species called Ricordea Yuma. On first glance, they're difficult to distinguish from one another. The way that I tell them apart is the orientation of their tentacles, first near the mouth and then on the body. If you see a concentration of tentacles around the mouth, you're almost certainly looking at a Yuma from the Pacific. On the other hand, if the mouth of the mushroom is relatively isolated, you're probably dealing with a Ricordea florida from the Caribbean. A more subtle difference is the pattern of the tentacles on the body. Ricordea florida, seen here, tend to have a random distribution of its tentacles. While the color of the tentacles may outline distinctive rings, the placement is more or less uniform across the entire polyp. Ricordea Yuma, on the other hand, tend to have alternating rows of large and small tentacles on its body that seem to radiate outwards from the mouth. Lastly, although both varieties come in a broad range of colors, I have to give the nod to the Pacific Ricordea Yuma when it comes to absolutely mind-blowing colors. If you do a search online, you come across some insanely bright reds, pinks, and even rainbows. Now be prepared for some sticker shock though, these colors don't often come cheap. Let's switch gears now and talk briefly about care requirements. The two are not a lot different from each other in terms of husbandry. For light, Ricordea do well with medium to high lighting. Most Ricordea are harvested in shallow water and color very nicely in that intense light. In terms of flow, they do best with modest water movement. I personally would not give them anything above medium flow. Okay, now that I've spent half the video talking about how to differentiate the two, and in the end there's almost no difference in care, what's the big deal, right? Well, there's one big difference between Ricordea florida and Ricordea Yuma. The Pacific Yuma tends to be a great deal more sensitive and harder to keep. One of the reasons why I don't show you some of the most expensive variants of Yumas is because they don't tend to do well for us here. So if you have any Yuma secrets, share them in the comments below. These coral videos just wouldn't be complete without some time-lapse feeding shots, so here we go. I came across one interesting thing about how these mushrooms feed. First, here's what it looks like when you give them a light dusting of very fine food. I've sprayed them with the cloudy supernate that you get from thawing frozen food. It seems that they react but don't seem to eat it. In fact, it looks like they're rejecting the food. The Yumas behaved pretty much in the same way the Ricordea florida did. They reacted to the food but not much else, and they didn't appear to eat any. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. It kind of looks like the mouth of this guy is stretching downward to eat something. Anyhow, that's weird. I would have sworn that these mushrooms ate food much more aggressively. This time I tried feeding them larger chunks of food. Big difference. Even though the pieces of mysis shrimp and krill are clearly oversized, the Ricordea are making an effort to consume them. In the future, I would try pieces about half the size of a mysis shrimp. We like to feed corals as much as we can because it promotes good health and reproduction. Ricordea appear to split by means of longitudinal fission. They start developing multiple mouths and pinch in the center, eventually separating into two polyps. Now this is in contrast to other types of mushrooms such as Discosoma that reproduce by pedal laceration, where they slowly move around and leave behind pieces of their foot which grow into new mushrooms. Okay, that does it for Ricordea mushrooms. I hope you liked the video. And remember to post care tips if you're having great luck keeping Yumas alive. Thanks again for watching. Tidal Gardens has totally revamped its website this past week, so please take a look at it. As always, happy reefing everyone.